Home sellers in the Spring Hill, Brooksville market are facing major setbacks right now. So if you're thinking of selling your home in Spring Hill or Brooksville, Florida in 2025, you're gonna wanna watch this video because selling at the wrong time or with the wrong strategy can cost you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars on your home sale, and it's completely avoidable. So in this video, we're gonna dive into the market conditions in the Spring Hill, Brooksville market. We're gonna find out what's causing some of the volatility, and we're gonna give you actionable advice on how you can avoid losing thousands or tens of thousands of dollars when it comes to selling your property. So make sure you watch all the way to the end, grab your notebook, grab your popcorn, and let's dive into the video. Hey guys, Ross Hardy from the Hardy team. And before we dive into this video, I want to let you know that I've been doing this for 20 years. So when I give you the advice here and I talk about the market conditions, this is not from somebody who's just got their license last week. I was an accountant back in the UK, so I'm very numbers driven. I dive into the market every single Monday to bring the latest information to our team. And this is what we're seeing live on the ground in the Spring Hill and Brooksville, Florida market right now at the end of February. So please pay attention. Like I said, let's dive into the video. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is the market conditions. And I want to differentiate between the national market, the Florida market, and the Spring Hill, Brooksville market, because they might all look very, very different compared to where you're watching this from. So first of all, the national market. Now, what you're going to see as an emerging story over the next few months is that the prices are starting to soften and that the inventory is starting to increase quite rapidly, more than likely. Now, in Florida, we've been well ahead of that curve for quite some time. So Florida saw a huge inventory increase between 2022 and the end of 2024. So again, we've already seen those types of increases that they're talking about on a national level, although the inventory does continue to increase. And when we talk about softening prices, again, Florida's already been through that. The Tampa Bay market saw a 2.1 price reduction in 2024, and we've already been through quite a bit of price softening. So actually, I read an article this morning that was talking about how 66% of the home sale markets in Florida are actually experiencing price declines at the moment, probably one of the highest number of markets in the country. So it's important to consider what the market's like in your area compared to where it's at in Florida. And now we'll take a deep dive into what it's like in Spring Hill and Brooksville. And of course, we can't talk about the real estate market without talking about the interest rates. So go back a year or so ago, and a lot of people were talking about marry the house, date the rate. And I always thought that was horrible advice because nobody knew where those interest rates were going to go. And in fact, what we've seen play out is that those forecasts where we would be down at a 5.875 rate right now were way off. We're actually higher than we were a year ago, and the average 30-year rate this morning is over 7%. So that's causing a real affordability squeeze compared to the interest rates of 2.75 when I bought my house back in 2020. We're not likely to see those rates again, and the interest rates in general are not coming down at the speed or to the levels that people had anticipated a year or 18 months ago. So let's talk about the three things that are causing the volatility or driving the market in the Spring Hill and Brooksville, Florida market right now. Now, number one, I already mentioned, is the inventory. And like I said, we've seen a large increase in the inventory over the last 4 years. So if we go back to November of 2021, there were 385 homes for sale in the Hernando County MLS in Hernando County. Now that's quite a historically low number, but we know inventory was low then and we know the market was super, super hot. Fast forward to November of 2023 and that number was up to 730 already, so a huge increase in the inventory. But that only tells part of the story because November 2024, the number of homes for sale was 891. Now that's a 22% increase from the same time in 2023. So a considerable year-on-year increase, and we actually just checked over 930 homes at the end of February here in 2025. So all of that to say there's a lot more competition in the resale market than there was 2-3 years ago. And in fact, there's actually an overabundance of homes for sale today compared to the demand that's in the market. And the other thing to mention is that a lot of the inventory at the moment, in my opinion, is kind of overpriced because when you have that amount of competition, it stands to reason that at some point someone is going to have to sell their home. So maybe they have to be in Texas for a new job that starts on May 1st, or maybe they have to be in a new location for the school year to start. Or maybe they inherited the house and they just don't want to sit on it for the next 6 months. They'd rather take less money for it and get the house sold. Well, of course, what that does is it drives prices down. And when that home does sell, it's used as a comparable for your home. And while if it sells for $250, it might not make your home worth $250, it is a weighted number and it will without a doubt reduce the value of your property. And like I just mentioned, likely the inventory is too high for the demand, and what we just saw is that 2024 was the lowest number of home resales in the US in 30 years, since 1995. And of course, at that point, there were about 80 million less people in the US. So it was a really kind of catastrophic year for resales in the US. Really low demand caused by two problems, which is the interest rate and the rocketing prices, which has caused affordability issues across the board, particularly in somewhere like Spring Hill, Brooksville, where there's not necessarily a whole bunch of high-level executive jobs, and people are much more affected by a 1% difference in the interest rate than they would be in somewhere like, say, Tampa or Orlando. And then the third thing we want to talk about is the new construction competition. So it seems like every time I drive to the office at the moment, there's a new home community popping up or a new home spec on a spot lot in Spring Hill. And the thing with the new construction is, first of all, the builders have a lot more flexibility in their pricing. So as they sit on inventory for longer, they're more able to absorb any price reductions that need to be done. And then the second thing is that builders are making it so enticing for buyers to go to them instead of buying resales by offering huge interest rate buy downs or large incentives on their purchases. So for example, I took somebody over to a builder a couple of weeks ago, and they were offering 6% of the purchase price, either off of the price to buy down the interest rate or towards their closing costs. I've seen builders offer to buy the interest rate down to 4.99%, which saves people hundreds of dollars on their monthly mortgage payment, and still offer $10,000, $15,000 towards closing cost concessions. So when you're comparing the incentives on new builds compared to the resales, a lot of people are going to choose the new build because of how much money it's going to save them. So let's talk about how all of that might impact sellers in Spring Hill, Brooksville, and why it means they might be losing money on their sale. Well, the first part I already talked about, which is how home prices are declining in 2/3 of the markets in Florida. They do seem to be declining in this local area as well. So the longer you wait to sell your home, it stands to reason it's going to be worth less. If home prices are decreasing 2.1% per year, if you wait till December to sell your home, it's going to be worth 2.1% less than where it sits today. So you're losing money every single time you wait to put your home on the market. Now, while seasonally speaking, there are some better times to sell your house in this area of Florida than others, I'm talking about as a general rule, if you wait a year to sell your property, it's likely going to be worth less this time next year than it is today. In fact, the forecast in general for home prices in 2025 is very subdued. It's looking like it's going to be a very soft year for home price increase, or as I should say, mainly decreasing in a lot of markets. And so we're not expecting them to increase in this area of Florida for 2025, although the forecast that we're seeing for 2026 does anticipate that home prices will pick up then. And like I said, with builders offering crazy incentives, it stands to reason that as the market tightens up, as buyer demand is low and inventory continues to increase, especially if we see home prices decreasing during that time, what's likely to happen is that the builders are going to make the biggest adjustments in prices, or they're going to keep offering better and better incentives for buyers, making it tougher and tougher for general resale markets to recover from where they're at currently. So all of that to say, it looks like it's going to be tough conditions for resales for people selling their home in Spring Hill, Brooksville in 2025, whichever way you look at it. And then, like I said, as time goes on, there's always people that are going to need to sell their home more than you are. So we see people dropping prices to get it sold in certain timeframes, or like I said, there's no attachment to the property. They just want to sell the property. If there's 5 or 6 siblings who have inherited deceased parents' houses, the difference between selling a house for $235 and $250 when you're splitting that money 5 ways is not going to change anybody's life. And so they're much more flexible in pricing again. That property sells at $235 below the current market value, bringing everybody else's home prices down with them. So the increasing inventory is really causing a lot of problems for resellers in the Spring Hill, Brooksville market right now. And then the other problem that people face with increasing inventory and competing against new builds is it makes it much harder for your home to stand out. If you were selling when there were 300 homes on the market, it generally didn't matter what condition your property was in. I always used to joke you could have a hole in the roof and look up and see the stars, and somebody was going to buy your house for more than asking price in the first weekend, because it was just that type of market. But now people have a lot more choice. So whereas there might have been 2 or 3 other homes in your neighborhood 2 or 3 years ago for sale, there may now be 8, 9, 10 homes for sale, and you've got to do something to differentiate your home from the others. So whether that's talking about doing updates or upgrades to the property, whether you're competing on pricing or concessions, you have to make it stand out some way or another. And I'm not necessarily talking about doing full remodels of kitchens, although new and pretty homes sell really, really well in this market. It could be something as simple as just changing out old carpet to put in LVP flooring, doing the landscaping, giving it a fresh coat of paint, making sure all of the appliances are updated and there's no mismatch white dishwasher with a black fridge and a stainless steel refrigerator. Anything you can do to make sure your home looks show ready and stands out from the competition is going to make it easier for you to sell and end up costing you less money when you do sell. So what tips do we have for people that are looking to sell their home in the Spring Hill, Brooksville market in 2025? Well, let me give you some of my favorites right now. The number one thing in my opinion is that you have to price your home competitively. And I want to make it clear, what I'm not talking about here is giving your home away. I'm talking about listing it towards the middle or lower end of the range for what it might be worth in this market to get more people in through the door. The more people in through the door, the more likely you are to get an offer. And in declining markets where the home prices appear to be going down on a monthly basis, the quicker you can sell your home, the less money you're going to lose when you do it. And although Zillow is great for starting off doing your research, a Zillow Zestimate is often not an accurate reflection of your home's value. And I'll give you an example of why. Now, in these communities where builders sell the same floor plans over and over again, it could be that you and your neighbor have identical floor plan homes. However, what might have happened over the course of time, if the home is now 20 years old in a community like Sterling Hill, say, is that you've gone ahead and replaced the AC, you added a pool at some point, and you've put a new roof on the property. Well, Zillow is not necessarily going to recognize that, and so it's going to price your homes very, very close to each other and very competitively. Whereas in fact, your home may be worth $30,000, $40,000 more than your neighbor's identical floor plan home because of the upgrades and updates that you've done to the property. There are communities locally where living on one side of the street compared to the other can make a difference of $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 in your home value, because being on the one side of the street backs up to a main road and the other one backs up to a DRA or has privacy on the back. There are a number of factors that go into pricing your home, and a real estate expert is the best place to get an accurate market value for your property. It's important that when someone comes and explains it to you, they can show you the comparable properties, show you the adjustments that they've made for them, and explain clearly why they have the opinion of value that they do for your property in this market. My recommendation in a market like this, which is rapidly becoming a buyer's market, is to price your home, like I said, towards the middle or bottom of the range, and then just be really, really tight on any offers that you receive. But if you're towards the higher end of the range, what invariably will happen is you might be at $350, the majority of your competition's at $325. Somebody's gonna have to sell their home at some point, so they sell it for $315. Now everybody sees that, oh, $315 is the value, so a bunch of people drop it down to $320 or $315. You're still up here at $350. You eventually drop it down to $335, but you're still $20,000 off of the market value. Get out front early with the pricing, price it aggressively and correctly, and see the results speak for themselves. Another thing that you might want to consider as far as standing out goes in this market is getting home staging on a property. We're seeing a lot of properties listed as vacant at the moment, and the problem with that is there's no real perspective on what any of these rooms are. If you have a 5-bedroom home, every single bedroom looks the same. It's just an empty room with 4 walls, maybe a window, and you can't tell one from the other. You certainly can't tell what size of furniture fits into any of them. And I can almost assure you that when people are looking at pictures of the home on Zillow, if every single room is empty, they're not going to scroll through the 50 or 60 pictures that you hopefully have on your listing. They're going to give up after about 5 or 6 and move on to the next property. So make it stand out and make it memorable. Home staging has been shown to sell homes quicker and for more money than homes that are vacant and not staged. And when you talk about reducing prices by $15,000 to try and keep up with the market, the cost of home staging is going to be much less than that. So it's a smaller hit to take. For sure, reach out to us for more advice on that and who we would recommend to do those services, but it is important that you stand out in this market. And then I talked about upgrading or updating. So this could be, again, something as simple as changing out carpets for luxury vinyl planking or laminate flooring. It can be repainting rooms that are in kind of wild and wacky colors, which were great for when you lived there, but might not necessarily be to the taste of any new prospective buyers. It can be changing out appliances so they're not mismatched anymore. And then one of the big things at the moment is getting out ahead of maintenance issues that might cause problems during inspections. Number one being the roof. So if your roof is 16, 17 years older or more, we're seeing issues on 4-point inspections where sometimes we're getting those negotiated and sometimes we're not. So why make it an issue going into the property? Go ahead and get the roof replaced if you're able to before you list the property, and then have the benefit of listing it with a new roof, which is going to stand out to buyers. Other simple fixes are changing out light fixtures or fans, doing some neat landscaping on the property. Just try and see it through your buyer's eyes and make simple fixes to the property that make it shine. And then let's say you've already remodeled the kitchen and one of the bathrooms, and then one of them hasn't been done. You might want to go the extra mile and finish off that final bathroom, because otherwise what's going to happen is it sticks out like a sore thumb and people are already computing in their head what the cost of doing that is moving into the property. And I've worked with enough buyers over the years to know that when they see that in a property, they talk to each other and say, I wonder why they didn't do that last one. That would have been really, really great. So make sure your home looks cohesive, put together, and make sure it shines. And then to attract as many buyers as you can in this low buyer demand market that we're in, it's important that you take advantage of every single marketing opportunity that's afforded to you through your real estate professional. So that could be as easy as making sure it's not only in Hernando County MLS, but it's in Stella MLS, which basically covers 17 counties around us in the greater Tampa Bay area to expose it to the most number of agents. But it can also mean making sure that the property is enhanced on Zillow.com with a 3D tour, maybe a floor plan. Make sure it's a premier property on Realtor.com. And then you want to make sure that you're taking advantage of social media with videos and postings similar to the one you're watching now, and making sure that your agent understands social media. So for example, we make 4 different videos for every single property because we know that the content people consume on TikTok is different to the content they consume on Instagram, is different to the content they consume on Facebook and YouTube. Now, another thing that you might want to look at when selling your home in Spring Hill, Brooksville in 2025 in order to minimize the amount of money you're going to lose is to compete with the builders. And what I mean by that is offering interest rate buy downs or offering closing cost concessions. Now, I'm not going to give you all the information about that right here, right now. I'm not a mortgage lender or a mortgage broker, but we do have preferred lenders that I can put you in touch with who can show you what an interest rate buy down might look like if you were to offer 3% of the purchase price towards a concession towards that. It's a really creative way in this market of making yourself stand out from the resale homes, but also competing with the builders on some of those hot topic items that we know are driving consumer behavior right now. And it's also worth checking out if your interest rate is at a low interest rate, somebody might be able to come in and basically assume that interest rate with the balance that you owe on the property, and then bring the rest of the money to closing via cash and tie themselves into a super low interest rate that they're not likely to be able to get from anywhere else, making the property much more affordable. You can check with your current lender if your mortgage is assumable, but it's a great option and a very creative way, again, of standing out from the competition and making it more affordable for the home buyer in this market. And then the final thing I will say is consider being a little bit more flexible in some of the terms of the offer when they come in. Now, like I said, some people have to be in a certain location for a job relocation. So now I've already touched upon the fact that somebody might have to move to an area to start a new job by a certain time frame. I spoke to somebody who called off of the YouTube channel last weekend who's looking at getting a job relocation down to the new power plant, and they would likely have to be here by a very, very specific date if they end up accepting the position. So if someone's looking for a fast close, or if they don't want to close for 90 days because their job doesn't start until then, maybe be a little more flexible than you want to be, because to be honest with you, at the moment, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. If you have an offer on your property, do whatever you can to take that to its finality and make that work for all the parties. Another example might be that, yeah, I know it sucks to move between Christmas and New Year, but a lot of people want to be in a property before January 1 so they can claim their homestead exemption for the year. So again, go the extra length on the flexibility on terms like that if you're able to make the accommodation and it's not an absolute deal breaker for you. What I've learned from 20 years of doing real estate is the seller will always think they could have sold it for more money at better terms, the buyer will always think they could have bought it for less and at better terms, and the real estate agent is just a poor fool caught in the middle trying to make everybody happy in the transaction. Okay guys, so that's going to do it for why people are feeling pain when trying to sell their home in 2025 in Spring Hill or Brooksville, Florida. I hope you got some good information from this video, but what I want to do is hear from you guys right now. What is your biggest concern with the market? Leave a comment below. I reach out to all of the comments personally. I would love to have a conversation with you and try to maybe allay any fears that you might have. And like I said, be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can be kept up to date with all the videos that we release about market conditions, pros and cons, and cost of living in certain areas, and new home tours throughout the community as well. Until next time, I'm Ross Hardy from the Hardy team. It's time to love where you live. Hi guys, Ross Hardy from the Hardy team at RE/MAX Marketing Specialists, and I hope you're getting value from this video. I want to let you guys know that I've been doing real estate for 20 years locally, and my team and I are local experts and real estate nerds. So whether you're 9 days or 99 days away from considering buying or selling a property here, there's no such thing as a bad time to ask any questions that you might want answers to about the real estate market locally. So be sure to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. We love talking to people just like you every single week about home buying mistakes you can avoid, how to get maximum money for your property, what the new communities are, or where you might want to consider living if you're moving to a certain area that we work within. It really is a pleasure to hear from you guys who watch the videos on YouTube. You can reach out to us in the contact information down below. You can call, text, email, or set up a Zoom call. Like I said, we love hearing from people like you, and there's no such time as being too early to start researching and get questions answered.